presenter, an experienced educator and teacher consultant for the Oklahoma Alliance for Geographic Education, LeaAnn J. Wyrick has taught 6th through 12th grade social studies in both large and small rural schools in Oklahoma, as well as served in various youth outreach programs. With real-world relevance as her core focus, she develops project-based geography lessons geared towards active citizenship and student empowerment. LeaAnn utilizes teaching methods proven to promote student success, collaboration, respect, and accountability.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. And just out of curiosity, because I was not able to come yesterday, can you raise your hand, please, if you are a K through 12 teacher? Okay. High school? High school? All right. And middle school? Wonderful. So I have actually constructed this project on 2 different levels. I have the intermediate level, which is what I would recommend for the middle school kids and even freshmen, honestly, depending on your group. And then I also have the advanced. Now I'm going to focus on the advanced version because it includes the intermediate. And what it will do is allow you to layer and customize this lesson to your needs of your students in classroom. So this is called Using the Geo Inquiry Process to Better Understand Wildland Urban Interface. It is on the OCAGE website. It's accessible to everyone. So if you would like to go there, there's also a ton of resources and other lessons on that website that I would highly recommend, especially if you teach geography. All right. So I live in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is about 7 miles south of Chitown. How many of you have ever been there? What did you think? It is beautiful. It's getting a lot busier. If you haven't been there in probably the last 5 years, you're in for a surprise because the population is growing, but there's a lot more businesses and places to eat and all kinds of things to do in Chitown, which is a great thing for business, right? Economically speaking. What about wildland, though, and conservation and things of that nature? Not so wonderful, right? And so this is one of those situations where there's the really good side and then there's the really not so good side. And so what my job is the teacher, and understand that I have a husband who coaches. He's a botany and zoology teacher, so he's a science man, but he's also an athletic type-minded person. And we both agree we're like the coach of the room, right? We're the coach, we're the facilitator. And so are we playing the game for the kid, or are we trying to help them play the game the best of their ability? Right. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to teach kids how to, or coach them on how do you find out the WUI issues in your area, and what do we do about it? Because the very first time that this really was an epiphany for me is when I did a lesson on the issues of the world, like global warming, humanitarian issues and things like that. And we were going over it, and my 7th grader looks up and says, Miss Wyrick, why are we doing all this if we're not going to do anything about it? Why am I learning about this if we're not going to do anything about it, right? Well, that's a good question. And so these kiddos, the idea is let's empower them to do something. So that is what we are focusing on. All right, so here's the objectives. I have the National Geography and the Oklahoma. And so here's the big question. What is wildland urban interface? What is it? Now, what are some answers that you think your kids might say? Or are they not going to say anything? A lot of times they're not confident, and so they just kind of, it's like crickets, right?
One thing that I would probably instantly ask is this a video game?
Right. Or is it a TikTok, right? Because everyone knows that TikTok is super popular. So I don't have a video game, but I do have a website, right? So whenever we click on the question mark, that's what we're going to do. So I always ask them, what do you think it means? Right? Because we want kids, and this is those testing skills where they look at their clues and try to figure out what it means. Well, let's go on our question mark, a nod to the Riddler, the Batman fans in the room. All right, so what is WUI? And we call it WUI after I introduce this because wildland urban interface is it's a big mouthful for kids. So you have, this is the actual definition, and typically I will have them with that paper in front of them. Do you guys have that? Or
we've been passing around.
Okay, there is a guided outline for them. And so they're going to start defining this, all right? And here it is. Now, as everyone in the room knows, we need to break this down, all right? And no one likes to feel like the dumb kid in the smart class, right? We all want to feel confident in the knowledge that we are learning. So the WUI is the zone of transition between unoccupied land and human development. It is the line, area or zone where structures and other human development meet or intermingle with the undeveloped wildland or vegetative fuels. So this right here is giving them an idea. Now what do we do? Is every kid going to understand this by that definition? What do we do?
Take them for a hike.
Take them for a hike. Absolutely. How many of you would like to go on a hike in the Chitown area?
I've done it.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. So this is where I'm going to break this down a little bit, okay? You guys are going to be able to read your classroom better and what you think is best for the students in your room. Personally, I like to do a lot of peer groups. I think it's the best way to do something like this. A lot of kids do not like to tackle something like this by themselves. And then also what it does is it gets that diversity to the table. It lets them pull off of each other's ideas, okay? So we're going to break this down. Next thing we're going to do, and I'll have to click out of this, is do you guys do a lot of academic vocabulary, a lot of vocabulary in your classroom? Okay, we do too. And so this is going to bring that element in on the vocabulary and really the words that they need to know. Like, what is a stand? Well, if I have the ranger, the park ranger speaking to the kids, and they don't know what a stand is, well, they're not going to understand what we're talking about, right? So we want to tackle that early. And so when we go into this, and again, the guided outline, this is where they're going to record it. This is where we're going to have our vocabulary. Now, this is a California map, but it still kind of gives them an idea. Here's your vocabulary. And so what I can do is I can either click into vocabulary, and it's all right there for them, or I can go to background information, and I can just do it as I want to go along with it. You see how it pops up? Okay. So obviously, what are some of the words they're going to need to know? Exactly. What else? Yes. Flammable, right? I mean, because we are focusing on wildfire. And then as I go down on this website, it's going to be pretty thorough. I think it's all the way down. So you've got sediment and debris, and it gets a little bit scientific, okay? So I'm going to click out of that. So once I've gone over the vocabulary, now we get to see what they really think, right? So group brainstorm. How many of you have the kids in your class that always have the super outside the box ideas? And you just can't wait to hear what they have to say, right? So this is where they get a chance to throw that out there. So I've got 2 questions, and if you don't mind, in your groups that you were in earlier is perfectly fine. How many of you have ever heard of whole brain learning? Has anyone ever heard of it? I don't know if high school teachers necessarily use it very much, but as a middle school teacher, I used it a lot. And whenever we're doing a lesson like this where I'm going to be speaking and then the kids speak, and then I'm speaking and then the kids speak, what is the cue, right, to get their attention? Now, I will tell you, for me, whole brain learning has worked out splendidly to the point where if I'm in a crowded auditorium and I need to get 500 kids' attention, I can do it like that. And it is because we are training them to respond to something. So if I said, class, I teach my kids to say what? Yes, yes. Middle school teacher, yes. And the first few times, you know, it's kind of like, yes, yes. So I do not take anything but the best, right? Think of that coaching mentality. So I'll say, class, yes, yes. And I'll say, oh, so you guys want to do this a lot, right? So let's get it right. So we can either do the hard direction on this, or we can do this the easy way, right? What do they always say? Let's do the quick and easy way, Ms. Wyrick. So I say, class, and they say, yes. I instantly have their attention. Now they know that we're moving on to the next thing, okay? And if you're interested in this, check out Whole Brain Learning online. It goes through the whole process, okay? So real quickly, in your small group, I'm going to give you probably about 3 minutes. What are some WUI locations in your area that you live in? And then the second question is list 4 pros and cons of wildland urban interface. So if you don't mind, let's start with the first question. Let's do 2 minutes. What are some WUI locations in your area? And if you will, just share that with your partner. Am I moving around too much? I'm sorry.
It's fun. Most like the next session was me. And
I'm high energy, so I'm everywhere.
I know my co-presenter and I would just stand here, but it's been fun. Like yesterday, a couple of presenters who were obviously classroom teachers.
Yes.
They work now at the K-20 Center, and they
all
were just
over.
like,
Yes.
They brought their own clicker, and they would look
Yes.
around, and I was like,
I had my clicker and I left it.
That's fun. I usually have lunch. I pack it with my projector.
Yes.
200 houses.
So what are we doing? Are we passing these?
So you're just passing them around, and I'm going to explain in just a second what these are.
One each?
So these are just some examples of some of the maps that the park rangers gave the kids in their
Oh, okay.
project. And so I'm just kind of showing you what they look
then we
like.
pass the whole
Yes,
thing
just
around.
pass it all around if you don't mind.
Okay.
And then this is the picture at the end of the project.
Of the kids
With
taking
yes, yes, exactly.
the Very nice.
All right, so if I were practicing whole brain learning, I'd say class. Yes, absolutely. So if you don't mind, just real quickly, what are some of the locations that you guys mentioned in your small group?
We said pretty much anywhere east of here.
Anywhere, yes, agreed. Anyone else? Yes.
I live not too far away from the Verdigris River, and we're sort of at that unoccupied
Precipice.
human development zone. We're like, we are it.
Yes.
5 acres, and then there's the Verdigris River, and the Corps of Engineers has part of that towards the Port of Catoosa.
So you're seeing this up front right now. Right. Ah. Nice.
Selling farmland, and we bought it, and now we're moving into that.
Yes. Do you think it's safe to say that this is happening more and more often now that we're seeing it? A lot of my geography teacher friends have really talked a lot about Mexico City when it comes to wildland urban interface, and they like to bring that to the forefront. And in geography curriculum, you're going to be discussing that anyway in the Western Hemisphere. But what's really cool about this is that it brings it to their doorstep. So we all know, have you guys ever done the Google Earth activity and they all want to find their house like immediately, right? Or they want to find the school? Well, that's because they want to find what is relevant to them. And this, by the way, just a quick point, this is all based on Chitown, but it can be customized to do near the Verdigris River if that's what you wanted to do. And I would be happy to send you an editable version, or a version that you can edit, and you can go in and change it to whatever you need it to be, okay? Also, another note, you do have the lesson plans. You can take away from that. You can put it in a different order, add to it, whatever is best for your students, okay? So this is the fun part. What are the pros and cons? So just in the sake of time, normally I would let the kids do a small group first, and then we would gather together, but what do you guys say? What would you say would be the pros for wildland urban interface? Let's focus on that first. What are some of the pros? Are there any? Yes.
Well, the wild areas.
Yes.
Access to those, to nature.
Let's put nature. Okay. What else? And people being able to enjoy it, right? What else?
Hopefully access to clean water.
Oh, yes. Wouldn't that be nice? And I think that is becoming an increasingly important issue, the clean water. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Do any of you guys just...
Clean air also.
Yes,
Trees.
I agree. Does anyone in your classroom do the Colorado River? Anyone talk about the Colorado River? Yes, this would be great. A good trail to go off of that one. Anything else for the positives that you guys would say?
Well, I think like just as access to nature, but it's also nice to have access to services as humans.
I agree. Yes, services, absolutely.
If you think about Chitown or even by like Thunderbird, economic development.
Absolutely.
I don't know exactly how you want to phrase that, but.
Yes, I'll just put economy. And that is really where the pull happens, because there is, and I have students whose parents have investments in the lake area. And then I also have students who are super concerned about the conservation side of all of the things that are going on in Chitown. So there is a pull, but this is where it's so important. And I know that you guys do this all the time, but we are there to help them find resources, to help them think and make decisions. I'm not supposed to be thinking for them, right? And so the idea here is, if they believe that conservation is the most important thing, that's what they believe, and let them run with it. The key is letting them see the other side. And once they see the other side, now they can make an educated decision. So I talk to them like this. I say, okay, guys, what's your favorite kind of ice cream? Well, what is your favorite kind of ice cream? Anybody like ice cream? Yes. What's your favorite?
Ice cream.
Just any ice cream. Okay.
Road.
Rocky Road. Anybody just vanilla, strawberry? Chocolate chip, mint chocolate chip. There you go. Well, I'll have kids that'll say all kinds of things, and I'll say, okay, well, how do you know that's your favorite kind? Is that the only kind of ice cream you've ever had? Well, no, I've had all. Well, that's how you know. And so, the idea is once they get to be adults, we want them to be able to stand on their 2 feet and not just think, well, I believe this because this is the only option I have, right? So this is a good opportunity to teach them, what does the other side believe? And if you don't want to be divisive about it, but let them see the bigger picture. So what are some of the cons? Now, this list is always longer. I'm going to be honest with you. So what are some of the cons? Anybody just throw one out? Definitely habitat and wildlife habitat. What else?
We're getting a little bit more like animals into like neighborhoods.
Yes, where they are encroaching in, raccoons especially in our area, getting into the trash. And that's dangerous for the animals, but it's also really bad, if I live in a neighborhood and we've all had that happen. That's a good way. I don't know how I would write that, but pet. Oh, there you go. So, well, that's not good. To your pet, right? What else? Pardon? Pollution. Okay, that's always a favorite, because is that an obvious one? Pollution. Water pollution, air pollution, light pollution, like you name it. What else is there? Definitely overpopulation. One of the things that we're seeing right now is the effects of sunscreen in the river. And, you and I were taught, wear your sunscreen. But what is the effect of all that sunscreen from millions of visitors in the river on our wildlife? And that's something that is definitely coming into the forefront. Another thing that we're seeing is people want to feed the deer, right? Because they're wild animals. But is that necessarily a good idea? And then there's the big one, which is wildfire. Okay, wildfire. And this is the one that we decided to really focus on the wildfire. Now, that's not all they're going to be exposed to, however, all right? How many of you remember the Gatlinburg Fire? Does anybody remember that? It happened a few years ago in Tennessee. Okay, then you're going to know what I'm talking about. This fire that happened in Gatlinburg, a lot of the factors that came into play are also factors in Chitown. Now, when I say this, and all of you understand this, I know you do, we have to be very careful on the way that we approach this, okay? Because there are going to be people in the community that do not want anything said that's going to impact their bottom dollar, okay? And I understand, because if I have invested in an area, I don't want to lose money. However, for the betterment of everyone, is safety, or should safety be a number one concern? Well, of course it should. One of the things that we found in Chitown is there are a lot of places where there's a one-way only entrance into a cabin. And Becca, what was the big thing that surprised everyone? Do you remember?
How they didn't have addresses for them yet.
No, there were cabins that were being rented and there was no 911 address. Not only that, but there was no cell phone, reception. And so think about it. Here I am, I've got a fire and I don't know where I am. I have no 911 address and I have no way to call. I feel super safe, right? What are you going to do? I guess I'll jump into the river, because that's the first thing the kids will say. I'll just jump into the river. Yeah, let's try to think of something a little bit more proactive, okay? And so I want to just play does this have sound?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to play a little bit of this video. I'm not going to play very long for the sake of time, but I want you to kind of get an idea. It is super important when you present this that you play the Gatlinburg video, because the question's going to be, as it is always with kids, how does this affect me? That's wonderful, but how does this affect me, right? So I would tell them this one right here is going to go more into the academic side. And in Chitown, it just so happened we hit at the right time. The forest rangers and the Chitown National Forest are actually building a project to take care of these actual things that we're talking about. Does that make sense? And so this video right here is talking about vegetation management. And then here there is a wildlife one. There's a wildfire, forest health. These videos are all Chitown. They're all about 7 to 12 minutes long. And so if you want to tack just one of them, if you want to do just one of them, that's fine, or you can go through all of them. Now, I will tell you this, be careful though about not overwhelming the student and throwing too much information at once. Give them a little bit of time to digest it. I'll just give you a little glimpse of this, and then I'll show you the Gatlinburg Fire. Does this? Have sound? Did I not play it?
No, it's fine. I don't think they start talking until a little bit later.
I'm going to fast forward. Whoops. There's not any sound.
Is your computer volume?
Maybe not. No sound. Becca, I don't know what would.
Yeah.
No, we did a demo yesterday. Was there sound yesterday? We did a demo.
We didn't have anybody play the video yet.
No, we did yesterday, and it worked fine.
This is the Ouachita in Beavers Bend State Park area. Beavers Bend State Park actually is right next to Ouachita National Forest. And so they are actually in the forest when they're doing these videos.
Yeah, no, I know, but it was on.
Strange.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
It's okay. It's okay. You guys kind of see though, she's going to talk about it, and I have my kids take some notes. Have you guys started doing notes with your kids by 6th, 7th grade? Super, super important. And I realize that we're in the age of technology, but I do feel like it's important for them to be able to do the old school notes sometimes. Okay. The note taking.
You can turn on closed caption.
There you go. We could.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's okay.
I might have-
So this right here is one of the videos. I'm going to show you the Gatlinburg Fire. This one is this is a little bit scary. I'm sorry that you can't hear the sound, but the visual side of this will really just tell you what you need to know. So these people were actually filming their experience. They were caught in this fire. It was night and it was in November. The 911 call comes in. At least they had cell phone service, right? In Chitown, they wouldn't even have that. And this is some of the footage and the pictures from what they were encountering. So here they are. And how many of you know that would be a super, super scary experience? I know that you can't see this you can't hear it, but there's a dog in the car, and when this video is playing, you can hear the panting of the animal because of the heat from the flames on the vehicle. I mean, honestly, this part of the video or this video is what hooked my kids in, because they were like, oh my goodness, Miss Y. They call me Miss Y. Miss Y, could that happen here? What is the answer? Yes, unfortunately it could. And so what they're doing, and we'll skip the ad here. I'm sorry. So here it is. And they were talking about how the police, you know, they were overwhelmed on every front. How do they get in? How do they get out? How do you evacuate people? This was an absolute nightmare. And so these people are going to talk about it. And that here's a helicopter. It shows you this bucket. Now, I'm glad that we have that, but in Ho Chi Town, we only have one of those. And if you have a giant wildfire, I'm not sure how much that's going to help, you know? And so this video, and look at this right here. There's the fire. So if we go back to what are some of the cons of wildland urban interface, we got to be responsible with it.
Could you relate this? Because I also think about, like,
I'm going to turn the light on.
A year or two ago, the wildfires in California.
Yes, yes.
To that.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the map that I pulled up earlier? When you go into the website, it actually there is a whole trail you can go on with the wildfires in California. And, you know, that is very common. If I remember correctly, there were some power issues there. Water, you know, I would. If you don't, you know, like I said, you can customize this. You can focus on California if you wanted to. I would recommend, and this is just me, I would do this one first. Then I would go in and I would do this one. And I would allow time for the kids to discuss it, because the idea is, what would it be like? And you guys have heard of the sensory approach, right? What would it feel like? What would I see? What would I smell? What would I hear? And so what I'll do is I'll put that on the board. What will I see? What will I smell? What will I hear? What will I feel? Because that's when it becomes real, okay? So I'm going to move on to this next slide. Obviously, the Geo-Inquiry Process, okay? And you know, it's funny to me because we put these fancy words in here, but do we do this all the time in the classroom? Effortlessly, really? We're just doing it as we go. So you have your ask, collect, visualize, create, and act. And in the, may I borrow that for just a second? In this outline, we're doing that. This is the advanced outline. So there are a lot of aspects for this. And I actually made it where they could write this. If you wanted to do a digital version, you absolutely could. One thing I would caution you about on digital version is a lot of cutting and pasting. So you have to be careful. That is the reason that I do more of the handwritten. All right. Also, be sure there are accommodations made for students who need the modifications, which is one of the reasons why, in my opinion, the group work is so important. Also, I would give every single student their own copy, because what happens with cooperative learning is that if I have one kid doing the writing, the other ones are just sitting there. That is not including everyone, right? Everyone has to be on board. Everyone has to be engaged. Your approach to this is going to make a huge difference. Are you excited about it? Do you believe in it? Is it something that you find important? Because if you do, they will. It's infectious. So real quickly, in your small group, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. What I would like to ask you is, I'm going to pick one of these questions. And when you guys do your own classroom, you can ask all of them if you want, or focus on one. How can humans be responsible with nature? Now, this does not have to apply to just Ho Chi Town or just wildfires. This is an open-ended question. So I would like for you guys in your group for just a couple of minutes to answer that question. What do you think? How can humans be responsible with nature? So, if you will, 2 minutes. How are you? Good.
Andy, we have any problems with the sound yesterday? Because we clicked the button and the sound worked.
Becca, would you mind passing that
But
around?
she can't get it. Well, I clicked that on and off.
Oh, this right here? It is. It's gray. Huh.
But we had it, but we ran
Yeah.
it this way.
Do you want to test it?
Just pass it around. Yeah.
Or like, do you want to test like the audio and like the videos?
Oh, yeah, we can. Let's just see. It's still not. Where is it? Oh, maybe.
There's like so many different
No. Yeah, it will. You watch. That's okay.
I logged in and clicked to
30 seconds.
I was thinking about the highway thing and like a difference that between California's highways and
All right, so class. Yes. And then it's funny because after a few times of doing this, man, you'll have them it's like magic. It really is. Now, I would just love to hear a couple of your answers, or what do you think your typical student in your classroom would say? Okay, so how can humans be responsible with nature? Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I mentioned a friend of mine that was in Northern California. Their insurance company mandated that they had to change their gardening
Absolutely. Wow.
in order for them to rebuild their house.
Wow. Anybody else? Yes.
I've been listening to podcasts on cultural burnings that the natives do.
Yes.
Maybe teach them about that and how can we bring that back?
Interesting.
Manage the forests.
Yes. There's actually what they call prescribed burning that they do as well, and we're actually going to see an example of what it does.
Yeah,
It's not the
cultural
same,
burning
but it's
so it is prescribed burning.
right, but culturally.
Yes.
Anyone else? One more?
I know in California, a lot of people just have turf because they don't want to.
Right.
The water because they're on
Water conservation.
anyways, so they're like, "Oh, just put your house."
Yes. And, really depending on your area, if you're in the panhandle of Oklahoma, it's going to be a little bit different than southeastern Oklahoma, but let your kids take off with this, and they will give you some great answers. So I'm going to go ahead for the sake of time again to just keep going. Now, this is where I really put this in, kind of just let the kids have a glimpse of what they're doing. A lot of times, especially your kids I have one of my own children who is a sensory kid. And so he wants to know kind of what's happening, what's coming next. Okay. And we want to give them that comfort and that security of knowing the direction that we're going with this. So I and I also put this here for the teachers. This is where you're going to make sure that you have the student research guide in front of you. They have a group. By the way, I pick the groups. Okay. And the reason I do that is actually there's a lot of reasons. If you feel like it's better for your students to let them pick their own, that's up to you. But I personally choose the groups for them. Now, there are several Geo Inquiry questions. Do you guys have a copy of that? There is a list of the Geo Inquiry questions in the packet that Becca made. There are 10 of them that we came up with. And I could pull that up. It has like dark circles, a line of dark circles. It looks like this right here. I can pass those out if you would like. Yes, it looks like this. And we are happy to make more copies of this. All of this is online under the files, under the OCAGE website. So for example, some of them, how was the Chitown Wildland urban interface changed over the years? We use Google Earth for this, by the way. So if you want to wrap in that Google Earth, this is a great way to do it. How have the changes of the Chitown Wildland urban interface impacted forest health of the Ouachita National Forest? And there are 10 of them. Now, you can do this several ways. You can pick 3 and focus on 3. You can do all 10 and have the kids draw one. You can focus on just one question. It is up to you. How many of you feel like you'd rather all of your kids be working on the same question? A few of you? How many would rather have several questions going at the same time? Okay, it depends on the dynamic in your classroom. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say your classroom, the classroom, our classroom. All right, so here's an example of the students, and as you can tell, they're engaged, aren't they? They are engaged. Now, I will say this, and many of you will go the route of getting in the public or publishing. Make sure that you have those forms signed by the parents that it's okay for them to be videoed. And do y'all have that in your districts? Do they already do that? Okay. So this is the giant map, the Oklahoma giant map, which I believe someone's going to be doing today. We use that. That is a very fabulous and very popular, by the way. They love that activity. Here they are building their boards. We had, this one was toward the end of COVID, the real heavy part of COVID. The Rangers actually, they did a Zoom meeting with us. Now, if you do Zoom, I would stick to no more than 40 minutes because after 40 minutes, their little attention span just kind of tapers, okay? And, you know, of course, the technology, we bring that in. Okay. So before treatment and after treatment, what do you guys see automatically? Yes. What is some of the danger here? What are some of the problems here that you guys can see? And you haven't even done the research.
A lot of dry leaves.
Yes. Why is that really bad when you're talking about wildfire, right? That's like gasoline to the flame. This is not good. They have marked this because this will be a prescribed burn area that the U.S. Forest Service does, and they tell why. And they actually take the kids to the area. They let them feel the dirt. They let them hear the crunch of the leaves. They let them see what's out there and why. And a lot of the kids will say, oh my gosh, but what about the squirrels and the rabbits, right? And they'll say, they run away, okay? Because there will be kids that are concerned. You know, why are you destroying to make it better? And that's one of the things that we have to just, you know, really research and discuss. Now, this one's in after treatment, and really it only took 3 months for it to look like this, which is amazing to me. One of the things that did come up is there were businesses in the Chitown area that were not in favor of this. Why? Possibly it could get out of control. What else? Smoke. What about visually? Is this going to be pretty? So what if I have a restaurant and it's within eye range and I'm sitting here and I see burning going on and I'm in a bunch of trees? Am I going to be concerned? Possibly. Is it going to be pretty? So there will be some issues that come up where business owners are not going to be excited about this. So we have to, you know, and the kids, we talk about this. Real quickly, I want you to know that whenever we were doing this project, which, by the way, if you are interested, I would highly recommend doing this Geo Inquiry project with OCAGE. It is so fun. It is fabulous, and the kids absolutely love it. But I will tell you that my husband was diagnosed with lymphoma about, 3 weeks into this, and so I had to kind of cut some of this short. However, when this was over, the forest ranger asked us, Patty Turpin asked us, would you please present this before the city council? I will show up. We will come, we will be there. They literally asked us several times to have the kids, because the truth is, guys, they'll listen to the kids before they'll listen to me. And so, you know, in terms of getting those kids out there, that civic responsibility, and I would say we did not do it this last time due to my own personal circumstances, but if I do this again, which I probably will, we may go that route, okay? And here they are, and they're measuring trees. And in this picture right here, they're building a fire break. And, you know, we have to explain to them what that is. And it's pretty cool because the forest rangers, I was really surprised, and we really lucked out because Patty Turpin, who is the actual lead ranger, she brought, how many of them were out there? 8 to 10, and they were so attentive. And I really believe this, and many of the presenters that have already presented, I think, would agree. The community wants to see our kids involved. They want to work with us, and they are looking for opportunities to come in our classroom or to get us or get the kids out there. I even had a kid that said, you know what, I'm thinking about forestry. I'm thinking I may want to do forestry. Hey, that's awesome. Okay. This guy right here, he was probably the most popular. He really got into it, and they wanted to measure, and they wanted to use those devices and all these cool instruments. So this was pretty neat. I actually have a video right here This is what it looks like after their fire break. And there they are. And they were cracking jokes, you know, and all kinds of stuff. And what he's talking to them about it and what they're doing and why. But what's cool is that you have this line behind. Do you see all of them? And they've got their little hard hats and their instruments, and they're ready, man. They want to help build the fire break. And so they were pretty excited about it. Some of them were just kind of like,
You missed that, LeaAnn. That was really fun.
I did miss it. My husband had a doctor's appointment, but they graciously took over, and it was great. And a couple of them were like, I think they told me afterward, they said, I didn't do a very good job. I think the blade was dull. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it was. Because some of the girls, man, they were getting after it. And then burly football man, he's like, it's a dull blade. Okay, and so I chose to do this with my kiddos. This was the winning slogan, Be More Responsible. There were several good ones, and we didn't, but you know what? We should. And I will tell you, it's broken, Bo, okay? We can make a s'more with a stick and a tiny little candle. Yes, we could. And so this was the one that they did. But as you can tell, we kind of used the science board template for this. And this was neat because we actually had community members vote. And it was totally anonymous. It was not teachers. It was not the kids. It was the community and the rangers as well on which one that they liked the most. And on this right here, you can see where they had the different Geo Inquiry questions. So you have the wildfire risk. That was their question. The reason I like doing the different questions is because then their research is different and they're not like copying each other. I don't know about you, but I feel so sorry for math teachers because they want to photo math. All right. They want to copy everything. And so no, Hot Rod, you are going to do this research yourself and you are going to look for it yourself. This one was a pretty good one too. There will be nothing to admire if we don't prevent wildfires. And so they really did a good job. Save the critters, don't litter. That is a McCurtain County slogan if I ever heard one. So that board, and I'll show you what this looks like. How much time do I have? About 5 minutes. We actually, and I went ahead and put the anatomy of the display board. If you want to do this, you can also do a slideshow if you want to do the technology side of this. I decided to go with this simply because we were out in the forest and technology was a non-factor. You can do it whatever way you want. So publicize the area or publicize the, in this instance, it was the slogan. These are the forest rangers. And they actually, what we did is we had a setup kind of like a science fair. Okay. You have the tables, the kids stay at their table, and the rangers went and asked questions at each table. And it was pretty neat because, man, they caught them off guard a couple of times. And so they're asking these kids these questions. Did they really learn this or are they just kind of reading off the script? They had to learn it. This is Patty Turpin. She said she was so encouraged by the kids' answers and by their involvement and how kids care. It's funny because sometimes I think that they're just they want to believe in something. They want to do something. They just need a direction, right? This one had a very good presentation. They did a really good job. This little guy right here, he's funny because he was just the wind was blowing. So he was the easel, but they did a fantastic job. So this was not planned, but after the Ouachita Forest, the Beavers Bend State Park actually contacted me and said, hey, at the Heritage Center, we would like to put some educational type connections into the Heritage Center, which is where a lot of the tourists go. And so they did a display, and this is the woman at the center that is responsible for the educational display. And they put this on display for about 3 months at the Heritage Center. And my kids thought that was just awesome, right? They're famous because they have boards at the Heritage Center. And I'm going to, I don't know if I passed it around the notebook. Was there? Okay. The research was actually put with it. And so when they see the board, they see the research. And I think it's right there. So they could kind of see what the kids did. Now, keep time in mind. And that is one thing I would be very careful about. If you get to a certain point and it feels like this is taking a little bit longer than you thought, look at the lesson and see what you need to cut out. You don't have to do all of these things. And actually, even I was telling Becca yesterday and Scott, the businesses in Chitown, I've got one specifically that wants to put the slogan on their marquee in Chitown. And so it could be simple. It could be something simple like that. If you don't want to do the board and you don't want to do the slide, you just want to have them do the research and the slogan, just have them put it on the marquee. The kids will think it's fantastic. Trust me. All right. Here it is in a digital version. These are pictures that I took. I love going out to the lake, especially in the fall. I live literally 7 miles from this. And this is my favorite right here. This is an absolute beautiful picture. But it goes back full circle to remind them, what are we doing this for? You know, we are protecting this for all of us to enjoy. And that's in the best interest of the business owners. That's in the best interest of the community, of the students. And so really the goal is to find that common goal. Be very careful, at least I learned I had to do this, be very careful about any negative messages that well-intended, the kids will very well-intended, you know, with it, but I make sure that we spin it in a positive way, right? Where we can all come to the table and have a unified message. And then here's the picture where we all were at the end and the resources. Do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What was the rest of that website that showed the template for the board? I got science.
Oh,
but I didn't get the rest.
so I will show you too, real quickly, sciencebuddies.org. I will show you where you can get all of these forms very easily. So you're welcome. I'm going to click out of this and go back. Okay, this is the OCAGE website, and all you have to do is literally type in the Oklahoma Alliance for Geographic Education. And when this pops up, you'll go to your lesson plan library, and I'm going to go to my resources, and then go to your lesson plans. Well, I think I'm actually already there. There is by grade level. So if you're elementary, there's elementary stuff. There are middle school. There are high school lessons. You can pick whatever you want. And then the giant traveling map, this specific one is under Geo Inquiry. So I'm going to go into that. There's a lot of neat ones here. The Wichita Mountains. There's one in the Black Mesa. There's a Tulsa Race Massacre one in here as well. Mine has 2. So there's the intermediate level, which is the shortened version. And then there's this advanced version. So all I have to do is click in it. And then every single one of these files is in there that is ready for duplication. Again, if you would like to change it, modify it, I would be happy to give you the original, and you can modify it however you want for your classroom, our classroom. Does anyone have any questions? I know there's things that I've forgotten to tell. I really hope that you guys like this and enjoy this type of very accessible, relatable project. And really, at first, when I see something like this, I'm like, this is really overwhelming. The beauty of it is you can make it whatever you want to. You can make it easy, simple, or you can make it as intricate as you would like.
Do you have standard tests to grade on these things?
Yes. Okay. So whenever you go into these, so a lot of it is the finished product. I also grade their presentation. And every member has to be a part of that. So, and there's a rubric there for that. Okay. So there's a rubric for the presentation. There's a rubric even for the poster if you want to do the poster. But I also, let me kind of show you this document real quick. How many of you will grade as you go? Does anyone grade as you go? Okay, I would recommend a mixed version of this. Let me find it real quick. There's the rubric. Where is it at? I think it's right here. I don't like grading, personally. I hate it, actually. So what I do is I kind of add stuff in where I can grade them as they go. This isn't the form that I'm looking for, but it is on here where literally I have it marked out day by day. So Monday, Tuesday, do y'all have a roster that you could print out at in your classroom? print the roster, and then do 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what I do is I grade them. Are they involved? Are they hooked up? Never, ever, never on their opinion, right? We want to encourage them to have, and I'm sorry, but no, I'm not sorry. I think diversity is what makes us a wonderful, a stronger nation. I don't feel like diversity is a bad thing. And so we want to encourage that, right? And so if they're engaged, they're hooked up, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, they get graded for it. They get points. It's kind of like putting eggs in a basket. Now, if they're absent a day, I leave it blank. And then when they get that part of it done, I fill that in. So that will happen in that grade as I go. So the whole day is already graded before they walk out of the classroom. And I do it while I'm walking around. So, hey, this is, and I answer it and I'm grading them. And I tell them that. And I'm like, okay, you're being graded right now, everybody. And they're going to get after it. Okay. Anyone else have a question? It is in this file. For time's sake, I don't want to dig through it, but there is one on here where you can do that. Yes.
Can you go back to the screen that have the list of all the resources where you snap a picture of?
At the very end?
The
Yes.
very last slide.
Okay. If you think of something, I will be around for a little while, so I would be happy to help you. This one? I would be happy to help you and answer any questions. Yes.
So I'm about to do Geo Inquiry this coming semester.
Wonderful.
Stresses is I have, depending on what our enrollment is, about 120 to 150
Students.
Yeah, so I have 5 hours.
Wow. Okay.
So obviously broken book would be a lot smaller. So did you do one question for everybody, or did you manipulate the question like per hour?
So that is totally up to you. But if it were me in your shoes, I would probably do a question per class, to be honest. Or I would dwindle it down to where I have, because for your sake, I worry about you being too extended. I personally had a smaller group of kids, so I did all 10. And then the kids voted on their top 3. And then we pushed those top 3 to go on to what we called the finals. We made kind of a little competition out of it. They loved it. We called it like the class favorite. That is up to you. What grade level? I'd probably do 1 or 2 per class, to be honest. And I would do different, because you don't want your third hour getting the first hour and being like, oh, cut and paste, which is why I stay away from the, and if you guys have ideas on the PowerPoints and the slideshows, do you have an idea on how to keep them from cutting and paste? Because to me, they just easy and they won't even read it.
I do, Nearpod.
Yes. Yes. Nearpod's good.
I haven't had anyone try to screenshot it. They easily could, but I don't think they can copy and paste since we're moving through it.
Right. Those little boogers can figure out all kinds of ways. They're way smarter than me when it comes to that. There's actually a group something for each class that they have where they can go in and find the answers and stuff. But I'm one of those mean teachers that the questions are in my head. And so each class gets different questions and they hate it, So anybody else? I would love to answer any questions that you have. And this is completely doable. As again, one thing I would really caution you on, though, is time management. Use your gut feeling. For me, because of my husband having cancer, I did have to cut some things short from what I really would have wanted to do. By the way, he's doing great. So, but just, kind of go the direction with it that you want to for your community. Anybody else? Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.